Stafford and Kupp are the two players who have been talked about the most so far when it comes to the Giants in a trade this offseason. And in my opinion, it has to be a package deal. They cannot, under any circumstances, only trade for Matt Stafford. If they are going to give up multiple picks for him on top of taking on his deal, which includes $50 million in cap hits for 2 years in a row, they have to add Cooper Kupp to the mix. It's no surprise to this Giants team that they need a lot of help. And one of the areas outside of quarterback that they do need help at is wide receiver. Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford have an incredible relationship. They have great rapport. And I think that if you're going to make the move for Stafford, you have to add Kupp to the mix too. Plus, the Giants are likely to lose Darius Lee, and we still don't know what Jalen Hyatt is going to be. So you've got Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson, who are basically your top two wide receivers. Outside of that, there's a lot of question marks. So what better way to add in a veteran wide receiver who you know has a great relationship with your quarterback and who's going to be on the same page day one? Matt Stafford is also going to have the safety blanket that is Cooper Kupp. When you're learning a new offense, when you're getting used to the Meadowland winds, which is something that has also been talked about with Stafford having played on the West Coast, having to go to the East Coast, and how different that's going to be. Even though he did obviously play in Detroit for a while, it's also been a while since he played regularly in the cold. So I think if you're trading for one, you have to trade for both. The Rams already said that Cooper Kupp is on the chopping block. Whether or not that's a good idea for the Rams, it could end up being a benefit for the Giants. So I'd like to see them go for both of them or none. And I think that if the Stafford situation becomes very real and it is what the Giants end up doing, they have to include Kupp in the mix. And look, maybe they think about trading Jalen Hyatt. Maybe he's a guy that they send back to the Rams in some sort of trade for these two guys. I think Sean McVay is an excellent coach. I think he can figure out how to use Jalen Hyatt correctly. I'm not so sure why Brian Daboll can't figure it out, but maybe he just needs a new coach and a little change of scenery, and I think that could benefit both of them. And we already know that Giants star wide receiver Malik Neighbors is on board. He has tweeted about bringing them both in, and he also has said that he is happy to learn from a veteran quarterback and a veteran wide receiver. So if you want to make your rookie wide receiver happy, who obviously has been a bit outspoken about the losing that he dealt with this year for the first time in probably his entire career, this is a great way to do it. So I'm on board with them doing both or nothing. Like I said, I also feel like you can't give up the ship. So, it has to be a very smart trade here. But if you're going to trade for Stafford, you better include Cooper Kupp in that deal. Now, let's move along to the draft because this is all the hot topic. The Giants obviously have the third pick overall, and it is a very big possibility that at the third pick, they could either be getting Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Now, Travis Hunter is a guy that is what people like to call a generational player. Now, in my opinion, that gets thrown around a lot, but I think with Travis Hunter, you can use that because he is the first of his kind in a long time that plays both sides of the ball and plays both sides of the ball quite well. If you're not that familiar with Travis Hunter, he is a Heisman winner. He went to Colorado. His quarterback was Shedeur Sanders. So there's obviously been a lot of talk knowing that the Giants have spent a lot of time at Colorado during their scouting that not only have they been looking at Shedeur Sanders, they've also been looking at Travis Hunter, which they should be because he's going to be in play at the third overall pick, most likely. So Hunter he had to choose a position knowing that the combine is coming up. So he decided to go with defensive backs. I don't know how that decision came to be made, if it was with the assistance of coaching or NFL execs or anything like that. But for combine and NFL draft purposes, he is listed as a defensive back. That is going to be his core position. And what I think he will do is take the bulk of his snaps on defense. And then, because he also plays wide receiver, he will be thrown in on offense a couple times as a wide receiver. So here's my opinion on Travis Hunter. I think he's an excellent football player. I don't think he's the right fit for the Giants at 3. And I just don't see it. My concern is that, yes, I want him to play defensive back. We know this Giants These Giants DBs need some help. However, if it's up to me, I want to see the Giants go after a veteran cornerback in free agency. I think that's more important than getting a rookie corner. Maybe I'm a little scarred from Tay Banks. I don't know, but I really feel like a veteran cornerback is going to significantly help out the DBs more so than bringing in a rookie. In my opinion, Abdul Carter needs to be the pick at 3 if it's not Cam Ward. We're going to talk about quarterbacks another day and probably from here on out for the next 3 months. But I really think Abdul Carter is the guy. And here's the thing with the Giants. They passed on Micah Parsons. And as Giants fans who have suffered through Dave Gettleman and who have suffered through all this losing, I will never forgive Dave Gettleman for doing that. And this is the opportunity for Joe Schoen to make it up to us and say, listen, I know you guys are hurting. I know you have to play against Micah Parsons twice a year, every year, and he beats the crap out of you. I'm going to help turn this franchise around. And that is one thing that he could do in the draft that I think would get a lot of Giants fans on board. So I prefer Abdul Carter. I know it's only his first year. He only played 1 year playing edge rusher, but he's obviously very talented. I think he would do well in this system. I think learning from a guy like Brian Burns would do wonders for his career. And I think day one, he could step in and be a huge rotational piece between Burns and Kayvon. And that is what this Giants team needs. I am all in on Abdul Carter at pick number 3. Now, like I said, we're going to talk about quarterback a little bit, but we're going to start here with Justin Fields today because obviously free agency is coming up. It is going to be here before we know it. And in my opinion, Justin Fields is the guy that the Giants have to bring in. I think there are a few other good options at free agent when it comes to quarterback, but the concerns that I have with some of the other guys like a Russ Wilson or Kirk Cousins is they do not have the mobility factor that is a must-have from the quarterback in Brian Daboll's offense. We saw going from Daniel Jones to Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock, none of which are excellent quarterbacks, okay? But Daniel Jones was significantly more mobile than the other 2 quarterbacks. He was not afraid to run the ball, and he was not afraid to do any of the quarterback runs, the designed runs, the RPOs. He was never afraid to run after the guy tore his ACL, which God bless him. So he was never afraid to do that. And the 1 year that Daniel Jones was an incredible runner for this New York Giants team and rushed for over 700 yards, what happened? They made it to the playoffs. Now, the argument against that is that Daniel Jones is obviously not as great of a quarterback, so he had to rely on his legs. Justin Fields is young. He can still be developed. He has that mobility piece that we know Daboll loves in quarterbacks. But unlike Daniel Jones, he's not afraid to throw the ball down the field. So I think he's going to be a guy that can step into Daboll's offense and he's going to be able to make it run. Now, I don't think he's the future of the franchise. Let's get that clear. I think he is a good bridge quarterback that will get us through 2025 and could get us through the first few games of 2026 until we bring in our franchise quarterback, which I think is going to happen in the 2026 draft. So I think Fields is a great guy that you can rely on for a year and a half, 2 years. He's a veteran. He learned from Mike Tomlin, who is one of the best to ever do it. He's an incredible coach. He's coming from a really solid system. He did well before he was benched for Russ Wilson. So I think you can look at Justin Fields and say he's a really good option for this Giants team where they are at right now. You can sign him to a 2-year deal. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. You're not going to have a $50 million cap hit like you are going to have with Matt Stafford. So I think he's the guy and he's the perfect option as a bridge quarterback for this team. I just get the feeling that he is a guy that Brian Daboll loves. And I think that he could really help this offense be a lot better than what we've seen in the last couple years. And, I hope that it's going to translate to wins. Time will tell. They've got a tough schedule this year, but I think that if you can spend a little bit of money on Justin Fields, it's also still going to allow you a lot of money in free agency to bring in other players that are going to make this team better. And God knows this Giants team has a lot of holes, so that's what they need to be doing. So for me, Justin Fields is the perfect bridge quarterback. Should the Giants consider trading out of 3? Now, here is where I'm at with this. My top 2 players that the Giants must draft if they are on the board at 3 is either Abdul Carter, like I said, or Cam Ward. Those are the guys. There have been so many analysts and experts, and I am not a film expert. I have seen some of Shador Sanders. I know he is talented and he's a good football player. But when the experts who do this for a living, who have looked at every all 22 snap, who know the ins and outs of the draft and what is the best way to do it, how to succeed, and where these guys should really be drafted, not a single one of them has Shador Sanders being in a top 3 talent. And you could say that about Cam Ward. These guys are not Jaden Daniels, they're not Drake May, and they're not Caleb Williams. We all understand that. But Cam Ward, to me, has more of the ability to thrive in this offense. I think him and Malik Neighbors would be superstars from day one. And I think that he's got those key contributing factors that Dable really likes. So if those two guys are there at 3, I am picking one of them, no questions asked. If they are both gone, I am trading out of the 3 spot. And I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion because people are going to say, how could you pass up on Travis Hunter? But I think I already covered that in this video. I just don't think Travis Hunter is the guy for the Giants. I don't have a lot of faith in this coaching staff. And I think that he would thrive on another team, which is unfortunate for us. But at some point, you have to look at what John Mara did by bringing these guys back and look at this team and the roster building and say, I don't really think it's going to work. And I hope I'm wrong if they draft him. There's nothing that I want to be more wrong about is draft picks and the Giants getting it right. Like, I would love it. Get it right and win some games this year, for the love of God, for the love of your fans. Like, please help us. But this team has a lot of holes. And I think if those guys are not there at 3, I think someone like a Will Compton or Mason Graham is my personal next pick. However, I do think that if Shador Sanders is still on the board, then the Giants have the opportunity to trade back potentially with the Raiders who want to scoop up and grab him. You can get more draft picks and you can still get best player available and you can get a very talented player at 5 or 6. And I think the Giants have to consider that. They are not in a position to trade up from 3 to 1. What they should be doing is thinking about trading back and going best player available. And this is what we're going to find out in 2 months, what's really going to happen with them. But I think it's something that they have to consider. They have to do their due diligence. And if those 2 players are not there, you move out, you still get a Mason Graham, you still get a Will Compton, you still get a really good offensive lineman or another defensive tackle. You get a good player who's the best player available, who is going to help this team. And you don't have to force the quarterback pick if it's not there, which is what they should do.